What exactly is COP21? Was it just the beginning? So why wasn't it done before? Why only now? Well, COP has been in many countries before, and every one of this little red dot represents a country that have already held a COP, which has all been directed towards tackling climate change. A lot of meetings, but not much change. This is because of the complexity and hierarchical way of doing things with regards to having countries come together to make a unanimous decision to solving global warming. Let us make things a lot easier to visualize. Think of the entire process as a bus. This is the bus that will combat climate change. The bus has traveled a long way since climate change was recognized to be a major issue. But along its way, it gets stuck, as the route to climate change is a tough one indeed. In the past, the solution was to enlist a tow truck to get the bus moving again. And in reality, it would be the global agreement or policy that will resolve climate change. But the world's nations cannot decide who would be the one to take charge of the tow truck and what it does to get the bus moving again. And in the end, the tow truck left with no solution in sight, leaving the bus stranded. However, at last this COP21, nations from around the world have been rallying behind the bus, and they have come up with their own plans to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This thus has helped the bus get back on its way to combating climate change. Some other factors promoting this rallying effort will be the reduction in cost of clean energy, as well as natural disasters, costing countries around the world billions due to climate change. Masses from around the world have also gathered to appeal for action against climate change. So, COP21 is indeed just the beginning of a united stand and consensus towards combating climate change. This brings us currently to the now. What exactly has happened after COP21? The focus is now on the European Union, which is currently the largest climate finance contributor to developing countries as well as the world's biggest aid donor. The EU is already taking action to curb greenhouse gas emissions in all areas of its activity. This means more efficient use of less polluting energy, cleaner and more balanced transport options, more environmentally friendly land use and agriculture, more sustainable and resilient cities, fewer emissions from all sectors of EU's economy, and financing for climate action. In the context of the multi-annual financial framework, which shapes EU's expenditure, EU ensures that 20% of its overall budget is directed to climate-relevant projects and policies. In the context of external expenditure, this more than doubles the amount of climate finance for developing countries and could represent as much as 14 billion euros in climate spending. An increasing share of these resources will be invested in adaptation and facilitating innovation as well as capacity building. Additionally, the European Investment Project Portal, EIPP for short, was launched to attract investors to viable and sound investment projects in Europe. Clean energy stakeholders are encouraged to send their projects to the EIPP in order to provide a comprehensive overview of projects for potential investors. And the European Commission will speed up technical assistance for stakeholders to establish schemes to aggregate smaller energy-efficient projects, thereby building critical mass of clean energy investments. In more recent news, EU has gone on board with the Mission Innovation as the 21st member, and this will help accelerate EU's global clean energy innovation with the objective to make clean energy widely affordable. To illustrate the effects of MFF, MI and EIPP, a success story should be highlighted. Iberdrola, a European utility company, has reported positive financial results whilst committing fully to decarbonization. This directs the march towards a continued divestment movement, as savvy investors all over EU have internalized the logic of Paris Agreement goals and recognized that carbon-intensive business model days are numbered. Thus, divestment from high-risk coal funds into green technology will help boost the fight against climate change. The Paris Agreement has entered into force with effect from 4th October 2016. This solidifies the EU's position as a global leader in climate change, since it played a decisive role in building the coalition of ambition, making the adoption of the Paris Agreement possible last December. The question now is whether the combined efforts of the countries participating in the Paris Agreement will make a difference to climate change.
Back to the reason for all of this. Will COP21 really make a change to the climate?
Looking at where we are right now, we are nearly halfway there towards the 2-degree mark.
You must be wondering, Why is 2 degrees so important? You probably can't feel the difference of the meager temperature anyways. But now, think again. At 2 degrees, several plants and animals will lose their habitat and eventually die. Glaciers will start to melt, causing the sea levels to rise to God knows levels. Crop yield will decrease due to the unfavorable climate, which means there will be less food for us. Fresh water will become a scarce resource. People will be hit with more floods and natural disasters, like an earthquake. In fact, there is an 80% increase in the growth of climate-related disasters. And more than 1.2 trillion was lost to the increased rate of natural disasters. Now that's a lot of money. So with our world in dire straits, things had to be done. COP21 has got to set the baseline for things to happen. But is this industry really changing? Or is this all a fluke?
There is only so much countries can do to regulate their emissions. Governments can only pass laws to regulate their emissions, but
the reduction won't be done by the government. Instead, the businesses themselves has to change. Companies may not be so keen on carrying out these regulations due to the very fact that it may incur higher costs to implement. Although supported by some governments, voluntary-based approaches to corporate responsibility and accountability have largely proved ineffective. There are just so many ways a business can operate through the loopholes or claim that they are actually changing. Take a look at this commercial from Fiji Water. Well, they claim that their every drop is green,
but the company uses plastic made in Chinese diesel power plants to produce its thick, rectangular bottles.
From the humongous carbon footprint to the tremendous amount of unnecessary waste, they are far from being green. This is greenwashing. And no, greenwashing is not washing off the green. Greenwashing is the practice of making an unsubstantiated or misleading claim about the environmental benefits of their product or service. Well, it may look silly trying to buy people over with greenness, but going green differentiates you from the crowd. It attracts new customers, and yes, it is good for public relations. So going green, or rather greenwashing, actually has its benefits, but at its very worst, greenwashing is bad for the environment because it can encourage consumers to do the opposite of what's good for the environment. So the question now is, how do we stop it? What we need is social pressure, and a lot of it.
take the Pinocchio Climate Award for example. It is an award that exposes some of the worst companies in the 3 categories of lobbying, greenwashing, and local impacts on the communities. And they investigate the company, tell everyone about their stories, and open up a vote to see which companies people think are the most guilty in these categories. We need to be aware of the products that are green and then actively support those to spur a movement towards greenness. However small the impact may be, we have to do our parts towards climate change and saving the earth and ourselves.